Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the Generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Welcome back to another extra episode. It's like your Christmas bonus, only you didn't have to work all year round to get it. Today's game was another webcam game filmed with the Jersey Boys, and Harry's playing Mairsil, Trevor is playing Golos, Ryan is playing Korvold, and I am playing Vilis. At this point I still wasn't recording hands through the webcam games, so I don't really have the starting hands, but let's get into the game anyway. Trevor wins the die roll and starts us off. Trevor plays a tapped Indatha Triome. I play a tapped Myriad Landscape, passing. Ryan plays a tapped Temple of Malady, scrying 1. Harry doesn't want to be left out and plays a tapped Crumbling Necropolis. Trevor plays Marsh Flats, losing 1 life as he sacrifices it to find a land. I play a Swamp and cast Expedition Map. Ryan plays a Forest and casts Talisman of Resilience, passing. Harry plays a tapped Dragonskull Summit, and Trevor finds another one of his Triomes from the Marsh Flats. Trevor plays a Forest and casts Kadama's Reach. He passes while searching for a basic for the field and 1 for his hand. I play a Swamp and waste no time activating my Myriad Landscape. I sacrifice it and go and find 2 more basic swamps that come into play tapped. Ryan plays a tapped Canyon Slough and taps 3 mana to cast Yahenni. He then hits Harry with the Hasty Aetherborn and passes. Harry plays a Seat of the Synod and pays 3 mana for Chromatic Lantern. He passes to Trevor. Trevor untaps and draws, playing a Plains, and pays 5 mana on turn 4, which seems broken. This brings out his commander, who goes to find him another land as the Super Solemn hits the battlefield. I play a Thespian Stage for my land drop and cast Cryptghast. I then sacrifice the map by tapping a Swamp for 2 to go and find a land. I say land, but let's be honest, it's Cabal Coffers and it always is. I then pass to Ryan. Ryan casts Squee in his main phase and hits Harry again with Yahenni because it worked so well last time. Harry plays Bloodstained Mire, sacrificing it to find a land and loses 1, but shortcuts first and casts Fires of Invention. He is then able to play a Vishano Heretic without spending mana on it and passes while searching. Trevor casts Dryad of the Elysian Grove and plays a Yavimaya Hollow as his first land for turn, followed by his Maze of Ith as his second. He taps 1 white for Path to Exile and gets rid of the Heretic. Harry isn't too upset over this since he gets to go and find a land. Eternal Witness joins Trevor's side of the board and returns Path to his hand, and he goes to combat. He feels like I won't block with the Cryptghast, and he's proven right as I take the hit from his commander. Trevor then passes to me. I play Cabal Coffers for my land drop and activate it, making 6. I tap another Swamp for 2 more and cast Vilis in my main phase. I just pass after that. Ryan untaps and also brings in his commander, casting Korvold from the command zone. The dragon enters, and Ryan sacrifices Squee, putting a +1/+1 counter onto Korvold and drawing a card. He then passes to Harry. Harry casts his first free spell on his turn, Arkham's Astrolabe, and draws a card as it enters. He then uses mana for the next spell, which is his prerogative, since Fires is a May ability, and he casts Painful Truths, having put 3 different colors of mana into the spell. This has Harry losing 3 life and drawing 3 cards, and he passes turn. Trevor untaps and draws. He plays Thespian Stage as well, and taps a lot of mana to activate Golos' ability. He exiles his top 3, hitting Glacial Chasm, Chromatic Lantern, and Seasons Past. He plays the Chasm, sacrificing the plane as it enters, and then taps the Chasm for 1 white because of the Dryad, which helps him cast a Path to Exile on Vilis. I float 4 black mana in response, using 2 of it to activate the Thespian stage and have it become a copy of Cabal coffers. I then let Vilis get exiled and go and find a swamp. Trevor, in the meantime, decides to cast Chromatic Lantern, and then seasons passed. He returns Kadama's Reach, Path to Exile, and the Marsh Flats to hand. Moving to combat, Golos hits me again for 3, and Trevor passes. I draw for turn and play a swamp. I activate my coffers, making 8, and then use 2 of it to activate the stage copy of coffers, making another 8 for a total of 14 black mana. I then lose 6 life to pay the Phyrexian mana of Keurig. And I then lose 4 more life using Keurig's ability to spend life instead of black mana symbols, and pay the 5 colorless for a Runescarred Demon. This would normally give Keurig a +1/+1 counter, but Trevor uses Path to Exile on the Phyrexian Friend instead. I go to my library to tutor for a basic for the field, and a card to my hand. I'm debating on just grabbing Soren Markov to downtick him and put Trevor to 10, but that's not the greatest line. I then tap a few more swamps to help cast Archfiend of Despair, and extort as I cast it. This has me drain my opponents for 1, and I gain 3. Believe it or not, I still have some mana floating at this point, and cast Grey Merchant of Asphodel. He comes in, and the table has no response to his Enter the Battlefield trigger. This has me draining each opponent for 7 life, and I gain 21. I then pass to my end step, and the Archfiend then triggers, and my opponents lose a further 8 life. Ryan returns to hand Squee on his upkeep, and draws for turn. Ryan then plays a Meiotic Slime in his main phase, which seems like a fun card for Korvold. Korvold then goes at Trevor, which has an on-attack trigger going off, and Ryan sacrifices the slime to the Korvold trigger, giving Korvold a +1/+1 counter and drawing a card, and the slime splits, making 2 token copies which Ryan can use later on. Trevor doesn't take any damage though because of the chasm, and with nothing else, Ryan passes. Harry untaps and draws, playing Temple of Malice for turn. He scries 1 and bottoms the card. He casts Mairsil in his main phase, and as Mairsil enters, exiles Aetherling as if there's ever another choice. Harry then casts a Chaos Warp and targets the Archfiend. I shuffle it into my library and reveal off the top a Magus of the Coffers, which comes into play. Harry then decides to exile Mairsil with Aetherling's exile ability and moves through his steps, returning him at the end of turn. He gets another exile trigger from Mairsil, and this time exiles the Morphling with a cage counter. He then passes to Trevor. Trevor untaps and pays the 2 life to the cumulative upkeep for his chasm, adding a counter to it as well. He replays the Marsh Flats that he returned earlier, but gets to tap it for mana because of the Dryad, and activates Golos. Trevor unfortunately whiffs at this point, hitting 3 lands with Golos' exile. He plays the Flooded Strand, and the rest stay in exile. 2 mana then gets him Sylvan Library, and Trevor passes to me. I draw, and activate the coffers, making 9. I use 2 of that to activate my second coffers, adding 9 more. I recast Vilis, and Harry activates Mairsil, using the Morphling's ability to give itself Shroud. I then activate my Magus, making another 9 mana, having forgotten he was out. I do apologize by giving him a reassuring pat that they matter. I use 4 mana, and lose 8 life to Vilis' ability, taking out my Grey Merchant and drawing 8 cards. I then float the rest of my mana, with a total of 23 black mana in my mana pool. I use another 6 mana to use Vilis' ability 6 times, taking 12 more damage, and taking out my Runescarred Demon, plus drawing 12 more cards. I then pay 6 mana and cast Bolas' Citadel, and then cast Command the Dreadhorde. I bring back Gary in the Demon, dropping down to 16 life from the command, and drawing more cards too. Gary then enters and drains each opponent for 12, and I gain 36. I then cast Liliana Vess, down-ticking her to go into my library and find the Archfiend to put on top. I then cast it with the Citadel, and we then move to my end step, and the Archfiend takes care of what life remains for my opponents, winning me the game. Game review time. So considering how oppressive we've seen Harry's Mairsil deck be, he seemed to have kept a really slow hand, and wasn't even able to cast his commander until like turn 4 or turn 5. By that point, it felt like my deck had really pulled ahead, especially having the double Cabal coffers. If you're wondering how I was able to activate the Golos so well, it's because Trevor was able to find Urborg with his Golos trigger. He knew that I had the Cabal coffers in hand, and I think he wanted to copy it and benefit from it as well. I know Korvold has a bit of a reputation for being a very strong commander, and I can see how having a draw engine in Jund is very powerful. But unfortunately for Ryan, he also seemed to suffer from a very slow start. I didn't get to see very much of his deck, but from what I did see, mainly the slime, it seemed pretty flavorful with lots of ways to sacrifice stuff and lots of sacrifice creatures that gave him added benefits. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.